I don't know what's
Well, you
going
look
on.
fine. You look fine. I like the
Uh,
background. The background looks kind of really cool. I like that.
I don't like it. Not what I see.
No, it does a lot of flashing and stuff, and
Exactly. There's not supposed to be.
no, it looks neat, man. We're in the 21st century here.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, so this is Jim West and Del Ross. Del Ross has become a millennial on us. He's
Star Trek.
are you a Gen Xer or a baby boomer?
I guess I'm considered at the end of the baby boomer.
Okay,
Born in
that's weird.
1960.
Yeah, like 60, 61. It's kind of like you can go to the baby boomer or Gen X.
Yeah.
We'll just say that you
Uh,
have multiple personalities.
Actually, I thought baby boomer actually carried to 62, 63, but I don't know.
Well, some people say it goes from like 46 to 64,
Yeah.
and then
So
some say from 46 to 60 or through the late till 1959.
right.
See,
Exactly.
I'm
So
I'm right in the middle of the Gen Xers. I mean, I'm 1971, so
well,
anyway, we'll take you, man. We'll take you as a Gen Xer.
everything about this is okay. Let's see if that helps out some. I think that helps us. No,
It's all good, man. It's all good.
boy.
So
Well, I will lean forward here and see what I can do. I see we got a couple of people. I'm gonna see if I can add Instagram.
okay.
Instagram was a little different in adding. What what do we want to start with?
You know what? I wanted to talk about something that I mentioned on the Talking Preps podcast. And Sam Griner made a really good comment. I wanted to get your thoughts about uh, would would high school football in the state of North Carolina would improve if we had spring football.
Well, certainly it wouldn't hurt it. I don't think that's the number one reason South Carolina or
Georgia,
Georgia
yeah,
or the other states are ahead of North Carolina. I think the reason they are ahead is primarily money, keeping
yeah,
coaches. If we had a better system in North Carolina, Tommy Knotts wouldn't have left,
right,
right? And he may have moved to another school. He may have tried to. Who knows? He might have cycled around to all the CMS schools, just seeing what he could do, looking for challenges. But when he can go down to South Carolina, get a good salary, and get his retirement, whereas here in North Carolina, if he had stayed, let's say he decided he wanted to take over Garinger and see what he could do with Garinger. Well, even though he was eligible for retirement, he can't double dip here.
no,
So he couldn't even double dip. So let alone making a lower salary than what, half of approximately what he would make in South Carolina. He also can't double dip. So the fact that we've got border states that pay better causes us to lose coaches. And
right,
so that's one thing that I think impacts North Carolina football. I think the other thing, Jim, is that it's treated and it's treated in, say, South Carolina as part of a needed culture.
right,
Here it's it's a burden. It's a burden to the education system to have it.
right,
They think it is. So they treat it as a burden. Whereas in South Carolina, they treat it as a necessity. Uh, that's a big difference. That's a 180-degree look at things. And that treating it as a necessity goes beyond paying for coaches, goes beyond having spring football. It really does help coaches build the culture and that environment of learning the game 365. So I think that's why other
Yeah.
states do better. Not just spring football by itself.
Well, let me rephrase this just a little bit. Do you think spring football, playing in May, spring football, do you think you would help fundamentals in the month of August or early September when you're playing? The first few weeks you got a lot of rust. Do you think you'd have less rust those first few weeks if you had spring football? Or you
No,
think it wouldn't make much difference?
I don't think that would make much difference. What would make a difference is you may, one of the things that you do when you go through the summer of 7-on-7. So the summer of 7-on-7, coaches can evaluate some skill position talent
Right.
that was not able to play or didn't get as much play time in the previous season, and they're going to have to step up and be key so they can start finding that kind of talent. And then the first few weeks of hitting and scrimmage, and really the first 1 to 2 games, you're finding players. Who's going to be your players that you depend upon
Right.
for the remainder of the season, barring injury? So those things you can figure out to a certain degree in spring football. You would not know anything about, rising freshmen, but you might at least know which juniors and sophomores and freshmen are going to be contributors on the team and can start aligning that. And that can put you a couple of weeks ahead in that process. So that when you start the season, you're still going to have not the fundamental, but the timing, the procedure penalties maybe, and some of the some of the other penalties that come along with not being in tune.
Right.
But at least you got an idea of the players that you're working with. So it would
That's a
help in
good
that
point.
regard.
I like that. I like that answer. One follow-up question. Let's say that you're thinking about implementing a new offense for the upcoming year. Would spring football give you any advantage at all with potentially implementing a new
Well,
offense?
everything that I just said would apply to that too, right?
Okay.
So if you are implementing a new offense and you didn't have the spring to work out with some of those players, then you're going to have to wait and start doing some of it in the summer on 7-on-7. And then, but you're only doing some of it, you're not doing all of it. And then you really can't start rolling it out until you've got your full complement of players. Now,
Right.
remember in North Carolina, they at least can do some let's say we've got 25 to 33% spring football in North Carolina because they do come together and get to work out. Uh, they just can't treat it like it was rolling into the season full bore. Some states have an actual game to end their spring football. So we don't carry to that level. We'd go to about a third of the level of what, say, South Carolina does with spring football. So we do have spring football, and that new offense could partially be rolled out, but it would be so much better if we had spring football. And when I say so much better, I mean that you would work a lot of stuff out early
Right.
instead of third week of the season, maybe finally getting certain things figured out.
Are you seeing more teams running the spread now than ever before?
Are we seeing more teams running the spread than ever before? You know what's funny about that statement is when we look at Charlotte Catholic, they're a team that moved to the spread, surprised people,
Right.
and now they're moving back. So I don't know. I think it varies. Obviously, varies by if coaches are looking to work with their talent and not with their coaching skills. Because a good coach should always adjust his offenses and defenses to what his skill of players would allow.
Yep. With Catholic, is their base offense? Is it a straight T or is it a wing T?
No, as I mentioned, I don't know if you caught that.
I
It's
think it's
a
a straight T. It's a
it's a T formation. Is
T
what they
formation. Yeah.
is what they run. And in the past, before they went to the spread offense, the still their base offense, but in varsity and JV, so out of Holy Trinity, they are using or they were using primarily wing T in game situations and all. My understanding was they would still practice some T stuff, but really, what they looked to run was wing T, but they had the ability to drop back to T if they ever needed to. So they really wanted to implement that kind of a rushing game. They could step back into in a game. They could start mixing in plays if they wanted.
When Catholic's offense was running on all 8 cylinders back in the Odo, and even the Brodowitz, the beginning part of the Brodowitz, or actually, I guess most of Brodowitz era, um, with their base offense, that was a fun team to watch.
I agree. It's always fun to watch. In my opinion, it's fun to watch wing T offenses
Oh
because
yeah,
precision is needed across the line in the backfield. The quarterback, even though your running play still requires a lot of precision with the steps that the quarterback has to make, the types of handoffs they have to make. It's uh, it's a lot of fun to watch. It's actually like not that I'm a what do you call them? Ballerinas. Some kind of orchestrated dancing stuff with
right,
lots of people. It's synchronized swimming, maybe
yeah.
on football.
You're
Different,
not a choreographer.
right? Well, that's
Um,
really what you have to be.
yeah, exactly.
So I agree with you. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. So I like having offenses that challenge. I mean, the defense to me, it gets more players on defense involved. It gets more players on offense involved. Any given day, even or any given play, somebody could be a hero or a goat. So
I'm trying to get some of this black out of the way. I don't know what's going on with my lights, but people, if you don't mind, we're not.
we're fine.
We don't have but two people on right now.
So I
And nobody.
wanted to ask you a team that kind of came on the radar just in the last week or two, Walkertown. I mean, they beat Salisbury and they beat Forest Hills.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that's a team that just I knew they weren't a bad team or anything. They were a decent team, good team, but I
Right.
didn't realize how good they are. I mean, they are loaded this year.
I will say I'm as surprised or more than you. So
When they
yeah.
beat Salisbury, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I because Salisbury they kind of struggled that first week of the season. They beat North Davison, who's
Mm-hmm.
kind of down on their luck this last year or two. I think especially since that Grove came into existence. But
Right.
I was like, okay, that shocks me. And then they followed up with a victory against Forest Hills. And Forest Hills, they lost to a pretty good Ashbrook team, but which I mean, I thought that game might go either way, but
I
the
thought my pick was Forest Hills in that game, so I do think
yeah,
that maybe means more to Ashbrook because Forest Hills is a good program,
yeah,
and Ashbrook's been struggling mostly, for decades now, right? Um, yeah, maybe 20 more than 20 years. They've been kind of, not what they were in the 90s. So,
right. I agree with you. Gastonia for the longest time, you had Hunter Huss and you had Ashbrook, and then Forest View came on, and I wonder, when you go from basically a two high school city to a three high school city, sometimes it upsets the apple cart a little bit. Uh, you've seen that over in Davidson County recently with Oak Grove.
hmm
You're probably going to see that over in Alamance County with Southeast Alamance. I think Eastern Alamance is the team that's really struggling right now.
yeah, now Gaston County, of course, has added Stuart Kramer, and
And you
it's
always have South Point, obviously, and North Gaston, East Gaston. But
exactly. But adding Forest View and then Stuart Kramer has split things up more, but the population is, regardless of, or in, not regardless, but in spite of the loss of the textile industry. And if you don't know, Gaston County in the heyday had more textile mills per square mile than any other place on earth. And
that does well. Okay, on the place of the Earth, that surprises me. But
yeah, at that
uh,
time, at that
yeah,
time they did, because most of the textiles were made here in the U.S. Textiles has always moved from the lowest cost of manufacturing. So,
because
um,
I know there's a bunch of NC State graduates in both Gaston and Cleveland County. Cleveland had his share of textiles also.
oh yeah, well
But
the textiles were all over the Carolinas heavily, but losing that much textile business and textile related business, Gaston County is still growing because of course, Charlotte and the
right,
industry that's growing around. So even with the loss, they've had to add schools, and I don't know. It's South Point's been a consistent, consistently good, at least good program, and sometimes great.
right.
Whereas the other schools, there's no other school in Gaston County that really can say that.
Right, I
Even
agree with you.
right, they can't even come close to it. So I don't know why. Charlotte has always seemed to have had some good teams, a number of good teams, and as Charlotte has grown and population has grown, the number of schools have grown. We still maintain a large number of relatively good teams to great teams. So
Right.
I don't know why that doesn't play over for, Jim, what
Yeah.
just popped in my head. Why is Gaston County not a better Cleveland County?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're surrounded by Cleveland County, even Lincoln County. I mean,
Yep.
East Lincoln, obviously. I mean, of course, they're a bedroom community to Mecklenburg also. But I
Yep.
mean, West Lincoln has really improved over I'm gonna say over the last decade. North Lincoln's obviously pretty good these days. Lincolnton's kind of hit and miss, but
Yeah, but you
it's an
got,
interesting story.
yeah, you got all of the counties around Gaston County. And even if you dip down into South Carolina, York
Right.
County, great football. So there's like great football all around Gaston County. And Gaston County's got the numbers to, you look over in Union County. I know that's not next to Gaston County, but you can kind of consider a population, school number, etc. They're probably similar. Uh, I'd have to look and see what the populations are, but just off the top of my head of thinking, there's a similar number of high schools.
Right.
Why
There's
does
11 high schools in Union County, and I think there's is it 9 in Gaston County. You got Hunter House, Ashbrook. You got Forest View. You got South Point. You got um, Stuart Kramer. You got North Gaston, East Gaston,
yeah,
Cherville, and Bessemer City. So,
Highland Tech?
Highland Tech is that's in Gaston County. That's right.
So it may not
So,
be exactly, but they're very close to each other in numbers. But then when you look over in Union County, they have a number of good programs over there. So I don't know.
no,
I try to relate though Gaston and Cleveland as being similar kinds of counties from what their origins were, the type of industries, etc., have been similar.
right,
Uh, it's just that Gaston has grown a little bit more because of Charlotte, but yet its football overall is very subpar to Cleveland.
right. Now, I wanted to tell you a funny story. This changing the subject a little bit. Richmond County, which is a one county school, obviously. I was at the football game. I was talking to this guy, and he says, "We finally got this. We got the coach that we want to. After all these years, we finally got a coach that can coach." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"What are you talking about? All these years?" I was like, "Who do you think was the last good coach you had?" And he said, "Oh, Daryl Barnes. He's by far the best coach." I said, "I agree. He's a yeah. How many 4 or 5 state championships?" I said, "But
Right.
Paul Hoggard. I mean, he won a state championship." Went 15-1, and the guy says something was kind of like remind me of the Jimmy V story. He says something close to like, "Yeah, but just think what Daryl Barnes could have done with that 2018."
Right.
I
Exactly.
mean, they won the state championship. I mean,
Who
what
cares
what do
what
you
he could have
expect?
done? Exactly.
I mean, that's a what I guess what I'm trying to say though. After listening to it, the coach is 1-2, and he's still in that honeymoon phase, and
Right.
that's a hard place to high expectations, and it's kind of harder to win there when you have to play Pinecrest every year. You got to play Scotland, Lee County. I mean, there's some really, and then you got to always have a tough non-conference schedule.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, let's see how you feel about your guy because I mean, uh, I think, be honest with you, I can see Richmond right now beating Pinecrest, believe it or not. Um, I,
Right.
I think Pinecrest will still be favored in that game, but it's not much difference. Richmond's probably going to go probably 7-3 or 6-4 this regular season, but Richmond County is really good. I think 2025 will be really special for them.
I'm sorry. My background is just, I didn't take time for reasons I won't get into, but
Oh, let's
I
give a
did.
shout out to Carrie. Um,
Oh,
Carrie's
oh,
she is
good.
a great contributor to Carolina Varsity. She's been a wonderful asset to everybody. She does a really good job of promoting high school football and high school athletics.
There we go.
She's one of the best photographers I've ever seen. Have you seen all of her work? I mean, just incredible photos.
There we go. I got rid of all the most of the. Uh, maybe
You're
I'll
welcome, Carrie.
maybe I'll
Um,
figure out the Instagram thing. Let me get back to this so I can see what Carrie said. 5 with Lincoln Charter. Yeah. So when you look at Lincoln County, like we were saying, I don't know if you caught it all, Carrie, but Lincoln and Mecklenburg and Iredale and Cleveland County being right around Gaston County. So I think I might go to South Point Thursday night. I got to look and see how many more games get rescheduled.
What's the weather supposed to be in your area? Because right now they're saying it's just a very small chance of rain here on Friday.
Well, I haven't looked today, but I'll look right now.
And go check mine also because I want to see if
They were,
we.
I mean, what Langston was saying last night was more games have been added. So I'm expecting that Friday they're saying it's only a 32% chance of rain. And there's a 24% chance of rain on Thursday. The really high chance of rain days are Saturday through Monday, and maybe even Tuesday.
For anybody that's an aspiring politician, you want to be a governor of North Carolina, we're in a drought. Schedule some high school football. I guarantee the rain will start coming. Just
Exactly.
schedule it every few days, and you'll
Yeah,
have. I mean, it just seems like every year we have rain out after rain outs and stuff.
exactly. This time of year, especially. That's why I was really, I liked what had happened with our rainouts here in Charlotte and maybe other parts of the state. But when we had the bad stormy Friday night and some of the games for Labor Day weekend, some of the games got moved to Saturday. I like that approach. Sam didn't and gave some big argument about it, but I like the approach because, especially this time of year, you got unpredictability with the hurricanes, and we have seen in Charlotte where we had games rained out on Friday, rained out on Monday, and couldn't play on Tuesday. Actually played it on Wednesday and then turned around and played another game Friday. We've had that happen. So we could have played that time when it happened. We could have played that Saturday. Um, but in CMS, they don't play Saturday games as a rule, which was kind of strange because we played some Saturday games this Labor Day weekend. But that may be because of Monday being Labor Day. They didn't want to schedule that game. So these hurricanes, Jim, we'll have this kind of weather for the next month. We'll have
Right.
this kind of unpredictability of hurricanes possibly knocking something in on us.
I agree with you. It's also I was going to tell everybody you might want to gas up or top off your tank if those refineries down in Louisiana get hit. Who knows what might happen?
Exactly. I mean, it's many times they've been shut down because of a hurricane. So
Right.
it's probably not a bad idea. We've seen um, we've seen gas situations. Gosh, maybe as recent as maybe 5 6 years ago because of that. I'm trying to remember when that last
I
time
know
was.
2018 we had the issue, and then I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago when uh, we had some type of cyber attack. You remember that?
I do.
Where and
Yep.
that was a disaster. But
Yep. Look at that.
oh,
I can't put my hand up there. I can't. Oh man, I got to work on my lighting. I got to do something different about the lighting. It might be better if I turn that overhead light on. So I don't know if there's anything else general to talk about. Maybe we might
yeah, I can't think of
talk.
anything.
maybe talk about a few big games this week.
Okay, I
Um,
tell you what, I've got my schedule. I've right now, believe it or not, I was looking on Thursday on MaxPress. They got 45 games scheduled for on Thursday.
yep.
Let's see, East Mecklenburg, St. Monroe. Um, let's see here. Looking down here, Holly Springs at Clayton. I want to see how good Clayton is because I know Holly Springs is a decent team. Should be an interesting
Hmm.
game. Here's one I would circle around this. Person is at Salisbury.
Right.
Person's a 3A school. I saw that game last year over at Person. Person was a young team. They've done pretty good this year. They're 3-0, and they I forgot who they beat this last week. Actually, I have it on my rankings. I have them as a team to watch. They defeated Northern Durham 54-0, and I know Northern Durham's a little bit tougher on luck, but that could be a decent game. Let's see here, going down a little bit. Cox Mills at Hickory, nothing. East Gas and Ashbrook. Oh, here's one I think is worth looking at. Havelock is at West Craven. Last week, West Craven lost to New Bern. I think the final score was 35-6. No shame in losing to New Bern. 4A versus 2A.
Yep.
Havelock is a really good 3A team. West Craven's a really good 2A team. I want to see how good Havelock is, though. I want to see if West Craven can bounce back. Havelock should win this game, but it might be a game that has a lot of strong impact as the season progresses for both teams. Looking down a little bit here, Community School of Davison versus Forest Hills. Forest Hills is 1-2 right now. Community School of Davison, they have a very strong offense. They can score points fast and in large quantities. So I want to see how Forest Hills responds to being 1-2.
I think I picked Forest Hills for that game.
Yeah, I'd probably go Forest Hills, but that's a game to look at. Here's one for you. Clinton is 0-3. You don't think of Clinton going 0-3, not only 0-3, but losing some huge games. I mean, losing. I think they've had a couple of running scores against them. I know Wallace Rose Hill beat them pretty handedly. They're playing Whiteville or Whiteville.
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 Uh, Alexandra Central, they're at Burns. Burns is 1-2, but you got to look at who Burns has played. Burns is
Yeah, Burns is. Well, they're one of those Cleveland County teams that's pretty good usually.
right.
So
Not Thursday night though. High Brighton at South Point. What's your thought about that one?
I'm right now, unless I see another game, I may go to that game since it's next door to me.
I want to see how good
Um,
South Point is.
I think it's got the chance to be a good game. So it may tell us how good South Point is. I think South Point will win, but who knows?
Let's see. Cuddy says, "What's the score?" South Point. I'm not all that high on High Brighton at this point. I think South Point is good. That's kind of hard for me to tell you what the
Two
that's.
to three score, two scores. I'm gonna say two
Yeah, I
scores.
was thinking 17, 20 points, something like that.
Maybe eh, something tells me they should be able to get into the 30s. So, um, can High Brighton score more than twice? I don't know.
It
So,
might be it might be a shootout. You just South Point's one of those teams that can score
yeah,
points at will. So
yeah, we might turn around and see.
Burns and Alexander right now the score. I'm gonna go with Burns. Trying to think what the score might be. Something like maybe 31-24 or 31-20.
Yeah, maybe 30. 35, 34, 35, 21,
Right.
something like that. That's what I would think.
I like Burns. I think they're a tough team. Also, they don't shy from competition. I mean, that's a 2A Burns versus a 4A. I guess Alexander Central's 4A, but it's a definitely a higher classification team.
Right.
I'm looking at Friday games here.
Were there no more?
North,
Was the Brighton, High Brighton
no,
and South Point the last big game?
yeah, that's the last big one on that.
Okay.
On Friday night, Northeastern they traveled over to Nash County to play Rocky Mounts. Northeastern is a 2A team. Rocky Mounts a 3A team. I think Northeastern is going to win that game. But that's another one I want to see a little bit about both teams. This could be a high scoring game. Northeastern can score points with the best of them. I want to see how good Rocky Mount's defense is. I
Mm-hmm.
also want to see if Northeastern's defense can hold Rocky Mount to maybe 24 points or so. If they can hold Rocky Mount to 24 points, that's going to be a success. If they Northeastern wins something like 45-38 or whatever, it makes me question about how good Northeastern's defense is. But their offense is not a question. They're a great offensive team.
Right.
All right, Battle of Chatham County here. Chatham Central 1-2 against Jordan Matthews 1-2. Got to mention those two teams. Jordan Matthews at one time was a really good 2A team, a really good team. They
Mm-hmm.
actually dipped down to 1A for a while, and then the program started losing foot. You couldn't. The textiles went out. You have a larger Latino population. I don't know the exact numbers, but uh, it's that's a place where the football culture just kind of wanes a little bit.
Right.
So we see that across the state. It's not a big game. It's just two teams that have been around for 60 plus years. Okay, here's one I didn't get to mention on the show last night that I think is something to mention. Southwest Edgecombe, they are playing Tarboro. That could be a good
Yep.
game. I think Southwest Edgecombe right now, they may be the best 2A team in the East. Uh, I think right now I have Northeastern ranked a little bit higher than Southwest. I want to see how good Southwest Edgecombe is. I also want to see how Tarboro's defense, if they can hold
Hold them
Southwest
down.
to a touchdown or two.
Right.
That's going to be an exciting game. Both teams are 3-0, and those two teams hate each other. This is a county school versus a city school rivalry. There ever was one.
And I'm picking Tarboro. So
Yeah, I am too. I think Tarboro could win the 2A East, to be honest with you.
I don't disagree.
Okay, here's one I want to see also. Pinecrest at New Hanover.
Yeah.
Pinecrest had a shaky game last week. They beat Middle Creek. I think the score was something like 62-55.
It was a high scoring game. That sounds right. It was 110 plus points, I remember.
I'd rather win a game 20-13 than 62-55 any day. I want to also New Hanover is undefeated so far. Might see how good both those teams are. I got Pinecrest winning that one.
But that high scoring game and being kind of close, that's an exciting game for the fans. Um, Fans are obviously going to be more generated excitement by offense than they are defense. Um,
Right.
your normal fans, just parents and that kind of stuff. Football people want to see good defense as well. But that would, yeah,
Next one is a good game. Southern Nash at Southern Alamance. Both those teams are in my Elite Eight. That will be a good matchup. And then the big one is the next one. Rollsville, they visit Cardinal Gibbons. I
yeah,
think these are two of the top four teams in the East.
yeah. I think that's going to be a huge game. Really, really big game. Um, I don't know. I think I lean Rollsville, but you can't count out Cardinal Gibbons.
They're a team that they're not going to beat themselves. That's all I can
Right.
say about Cardinal Gibbons. They do have a
Exactly.
lot of size. I've never seen Cardinal Gibbons as big as they are this year.
They
And
are big. They are big. I saw them, although I didn't get to see them play. I got to be on the sidelines with them for 30 minutes when they came down to play Mallard Creek, the game that got canceled.
and both those teams are deep. And
Yep.
when you have depth and you have players that can sub out, it makes everybody better. It makes the whole team better. It makes them more fresh. I like this game. I think Roseville might be a little bit more athletic, a little bit more. I think size wise, they're probably about the same, to be honest with you.
Uh huh.
Colonel Gibbons has got a lot of poise and they got a lot of fundamentals. That game could go either way. Right now, I couldn't pick the winner on that one. Let's see, going down here, Shelby at Olympic. I think that's a big game.
I think it's a bigger game for Olympic than Olympic may realize, but I think it's a good opportunity for Olympic to maybe prove if they've got a good team because they can lose to this Shelby team, as can a lot of 4A teams can lose to Shelby. And don't be misled by record.
Right.
But it's a game that I think Olympics got a chance to win. And I think it would do that program more good than they may realize to win that game. So be interesting to see how that one flows.
I would not want to play Shelby after they've had back-to-back losses to AC Reynolds and then
And
Crest.
Crest, yes, I was going to say especially Crest. Not that they like losing to AC Reynolds, but
Going down a little bit, Leesville is playing Heritage. I don't think that's going to be a close game. I think Leesville will win that one. Let's see here. Chambers at Hickory Ridge. Both those teams haven't won a game so far. Chambers 0-2 and Hickory Ridge 0-3. I got Chambers winning that game. I don't know if you have a different.
no, I don't have a different feeling. I'd like to see Jupiter Wilson and Hickory Ridge play a little better than what they're playing, but no, I don't have a different feeling. I would pick Chambers if that were on the list to pick.
Okay, here's one for you. Butler at Weddington. Weddington is doing everything they need to win. Butler, I think they found a little bit of their identity last week. They lost a close one to Irmo. I don't think Weddington is necessarily going to blow them out. I think Weddington is the solid favorite, though. Any different thoughts on that?
No, I do think that you could even say Weddington could be even a two-score favorite, maybe. Well, probably odds if there were odds. If Jimmy the Greek were throwing out odds, he might say somewhere between 8 to 10 points. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a two-score win. Weddington's really good.
I think their defense is the best part of that team.
It's certainly a solid defense, and that defensive line specifically.
Right.
But their offense is pretty strong too. They're just a very high physical team, the most physical team I've seen this year. Highly capable, lots of talent. And Butler may have put things together. And if Butler's a Butler, then they're always a chance for them to win. They were not favored last year.
And then they won.
That's right. So we'll see. I think it could be a really good football game.
Yeah, I don't think it's a game that I would dismiss. And also, if I was a Weddington fan, I wouldn't go ahead and chalk up a victory. I think you're going to have
No,
to fight to win that one.
they will
But
have to play. Yeah.
they'll have to play. And again, they're a solid favorite in my book. But going down to the southeastern part of the state, Laney will be at Cape Fear. Cape Fear is a really good team. I know they've only won two or played two games this year. They won both of them handily. Laney's a pretty good 4A team. I got Cape Fear winning this one.
Yeah,
So
I would I don't know. Why I want to think Laney's got a chance,
Laney
but
has
I would go with Cape Fear.
Laney has depth, and depth equalizes a lot of issues. Now,
It
in your
does.
neck of the area, Country Day, they had a pretty good week last week, if I remember correctly. But they're playing
Yeah.
Providence Day.
There's should be this game should not be close.
Providence Day all the way.
Oh yeah. I think the only private. Well, there's only one private in Charlotte. I think that could give Providence Day a game, and that's their big
Christian.
rival, Christian. I think the only two real challenges Providence Day will see will be them or Raven Gap, and so Country Day might again surprise us, but I just don't see Country Day or Latin. They just don't have the numbers and they don't have the physical size to play with these guys.
Right.
Providence Day's really good. If Providence Day had maybe three more players to give them a little more depth, 3 to 5 more players, they'd be the best team in the state. But right now, Weddington's the best team in the state.
Gotcha. Now, this is an interesting one. This is in the eastern part of the state, kind of, I don't know, kind of mid-east. Wilson Prep will be at Farmville Central. I like both of these programs. Wilson Prep's a 1A school. Farmville Central's a 2A. I think this is going to be a pretty close one. Farmville Central might be just got a little bit more depth. The game will be at home. I'm going to go with Farmville Central in a close one, but I would not be surprised Wilson Prep wins that one.
I agree with the assessments, but I'm going with Farmville Central mainly because maybe a longer time favorite.
Right.
Because yeah, so I think it'd be a good football game to go see.
Here's one. Conley, 4A Conley will be at Northern Nash, 3A Northern Nash. I think that's going to be a really good game. I got Northern Nash winning that one, but I don't think it's going to be more than maybe a touchdown or 7 to 10 points. It could be 3 points, but I got Northern Nash winning that one.
I'm with you.
Let's see here, going down a little bit, looking at Max Preps. Here's one that's a 1A versus 2A. East Bladen to James Keenan. James Keenan is on fire right now. I think this could be an ugly game. I could see James Keenan winning by as many as 4 touchdowns. It's, beginning of the season, I would probably take Keenan maybe by a touchdown, but I think James Keenan's going to be on fire. Here's one for you. Independence and South Mech. Any thoughts about that one?
Shouldn't be close.
You
I
know,
wish it would be. I'd like to see Joe Evans at South Mech. I'd like to see his team put up a big time fight, and who knows, maybe something happens. But I think Independence got a lot of talent, a lot of speed, a lot of skill, great quarterback. They're one of the top teams in the West. So
I agree with you. And I kind of, it sounds weird, but right so far this season, you hear people talking about Huff, you hear people talking about Mallard Creek, Weddington, Grimsley. Independence, I'm not hearing quite as much about it. Are they maybe flying under the radar at a very high level?
Well, their problem the reason you're not hearing as much is because of what happened their first game, and some of that is due to losing three linemen in the first half.
Right.
So they opened up that game just like blockbusters. They should have scored 28 points in the first quarter. Really, that's not an exaggeration on how well they were moving the ball and how well they were shutting down Myers Park. Uh, but they didn't quite do that in the first quarter. They didn't score as many as they could have, and then somewhere in the towards the middle of the second quarter, they started. Is when they started getting their injuries. I don't think they occurred. They um, had any of those injuries prior to that point, but from that point on, the game was really competitive. And those of us that were there, we didn't know this stuff was happening until after the game. So it really impacted opinions of people. I think that what we saw Myers Park end up doing gave some people some false hope about Myers Park. Um, not to say anything negative about Myers Park, but then when I went to the Huff game, I expected Huff to win that game big.
Right.
So maybe the fact that Indy had that happen to them may make people think that they're not. And look, when Indy steps off the bus, they're not going to wow you with their size. They're not a huge, and I'm talking about the physical size of the players. They're not gigantic. They're not. It's not like looking at a Huff, a Mallard Creek team. Um, they're nothing like that on the physicality level. But once you see them working out and playing, and you see that talent working out, oh my gosh, they're just they're major good, Jim. So
Right.
uh, I hate to say it, but South could lose by 4 touchdowns easily. Um, I hope not. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if Joe won. If South won, I'm not going to hurt my feelings. I always want to see close games,
Oh, I
even
do
if I'm
too.
not right. Even if you're
And
not
I'm a
at the
Joe
game,
Evans. I'm personally a Joe Evans fan, so I think he's a I think he's a solid citizen.
he
Here's
is.
another one in the Mecklenburg County. This is Rocky River at Berry.
Well, I don't know. Flip a coin.
That's kind of what I think. Kenneth
flip,
McClamrick,
flip.
who's a friend of mine, is the coach at Rocky River. So
Flip a
it's
coin. Ugly game.
the game that I'm possibly going to go. I'll either go to it or stay home on Friday. Depends. My mother's having surgery tomorrow. She fell off a ladder this weekend. Thought it was a broken arm. Found out it was a lot more. It was this. She's going to have surgery on her shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
The ball joints got damaged. They need to have surgery to repair that. So depends on how everything goes on this weekend if I'll go to that game. But I like Jordan. I think Jordan's one of these teams that's I do not want to dismiss their chances.
Right.
Let's see here, going down a little bit. Just looking for big games at this point. Here's one. I think this is Southeast. Let me double check. This is that's South or South Southern Durham. Southern Durham is at Wake Forest. Wake Forest, they lost a shocker last week to Southeast Raleigh. They got
Yep.
defeated. I think it was 28-0. Southeast Raleigh's on my radar now, but Southern Durham, they lost. Did I lose last week? I can't remember. I think they lost to Williams last week, and I want to see how both of these teams bounce back. Let's see here, going down. Walkertown will be at 0-3 North Davidson. Walkertown should win that one easily. Um, okay, here's one I want to, or the next two I want to talk about. Union Pines and Randleman. I like Brian Till. He was the former head coach at
Yep.
Richmond. So far, 3 games, 3 shutouts. They've scored 122 points, given up zero. Randleman is a very good two-way team. Union Pines is a 4A team. Union Pines has not played a team of Randleman's caliber so far. I got Randleman winning this one, but don't be surprised if Union Pines pulls this one out.
Okay.
All right,
I
here's
don't.
one I want to go ahead, Ted.
Go ahead.
Big one I want to talk about: Myers Park and Richmond. Uh, both are hungry teams.
Yeah, I in our pick 'em this week, I picked Myers Park. So I don't know. I mean, I'm picking Myers Park. Myers Park's got really really good quarterback. Got
Right.
they got some really good receivers. They got a really big line. I mean, they're big boys. They're they're pretty solid. They're pretty solid as far as football players. Um, this is not a Huff that they're going up against,
No.
who
More
just at
independence.
no nor an Independence. Huff just ate them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They had their way with them, but uh, Huff's also got one of the best defenses I think you'll see this year.
Right.
Uh, I think Myers Park's got a lot of things that could help them to win. It's going to be interesting, Jim, because Richmond's done some good things. So they might. Rich, I will not be. I'm not going to be shocked if Richmond wins. I'll say that.
See, I got Myers Park winning this game, and the reason why I think Richmond still has a lot more. I think they have a higher ceiling, but I think they're not
Right.
playing. I think they're playing more towards their floor at this point.
Yeah.
I think Myers Park might have a little bit more experience, and I think they should win. I think Myers Park has to see them win by a touchdown, but that's going to be a hostile environment. So we'll see what happens.
I really do believe it'll be, from a score perspective, a good game. I did not, when I picked Myers Park, I was actually, when I was making my pick, I was trying to think, all right, so what are the other guys going to pick? Because I'm not doing too well. I'm 10-6 right now and in last place. And I think Langston is in first place with 14 picks. Brian Hells is in second place. So I'm trying to outthink them. Which game might they pick one way that could go the other way? And should I go the other way? So I almost pick Richmond based on those assumptions. Now, I don't know how they're going to pick that game, but I'm assuming they're going to be like you and like I did and pick Myers Park. But I just didn't have enough confidence to pick Richmond. Um, although I did make a few bold picks. But that one I was like, no, I don't think so. Oh, I can't hear you. Can you hear
Oh, I'm
me?
sorry. Yeah, I can hear you. I was for some reason my mic went on mute. My bad.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
hear
I
me
saw
now?
you. Yeah, I can. I saw your mouth moving. I'm like, is it me?
Here's one. Jack Brett. They've kind of flown under the radar recently. They're 1-1. We don't hear many people talking about Jack Brett. You hear him down in Fayetteville. You think of 71st. You think of even Cape Fear. The last few years, Terry Sanford.
Mm-hmm.
But they're playing Scotland. I think Scotland needs this win a lot more than probably Jack Brett does. Scotland's 1-2. They've lost to
I,
2 teams in South Carolina. I don't know how Scotland's going to do in this game.
I didn't look to see their last loss was to Marlboro County, I think, wasn't it?
Right, 40-28.
Yeah, and I didn't look to see how good Marlboro is this year. Usually they're a pretty good program, and that's a real big rival game, a cross border rival.
Right.
But I agree with you. I think being under 500 right now, Scotland needs this win.
Okay, this time we're going to go up the hill. AC Reynolds at Watauga. AC Reynolds 1-2. Watauga 3-0. Watauga's 4A school. AC Reynolds a 3A school. AC Reynolds got their heads handed to them last week. I think they lost
Yep.
to East Forsyth. Watauga, they beat a good 2A team, Maiden 24-13. Not a very impressive win. Uh, to me, this is kind of to me, this would be a good one of those that you have to pick one team or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with AC Reynolds in this one. But it could
Yeah.
go either way.
I, there's some parts of me that says that Watauga could win this game, but other parts of me tell me overall ACR is probably a better program,
Right.
and people can throw Watauga almost every year wins about somewhere between 8 to 10 regular season ball games, probably closer to 10, 9 or 10. But ACR is a team that can give Piedmont teams trouble. So
Right.
usually, so I would give a slight edge to um, Reynolds here.
Okay. One of the biggest games. This is down in Cleveland County. Charlotte Catholic at Crest.
Man, was this a hard game to pick for me? Because this was on our pick'em this week too. Um, I think I picked Catholic.
That's who
Pretty
I got winning this game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I picked Catholic, but I kept bouncing. It's another one of those games I kept bouncing back and forth. Are the Charlotte guys going to pick? Because all the pickers are out of Charlotte. And I'm like, are they going to pick Charlotte Catholic? Are they going to pick Crest? They're probably going to pick Charlotte Catholic.
Well, on the Max Preps rankings, which it's all data based and
but it's
it's not all
close.
that. It's
Uh,
Catholic is ranked 20th in the state and Crest is 21st.
exactly, it's close.
Yeah, it's
So
very close.
I looked at it and I'm like, man. So
The things that are
and
in Crest advantage, though, the game is at Bowling Springs,
yeah,
and uh, I will also say that there. I don't know if Catholics won't have any issues. I think any of their issues with implementing their current offense has probably been taken care of the first 3 weeks.
let me make sure of who I picked. No, excuse me, I picked Crest.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because I know I kept bouncing back and forth. I picked Crest because I figured they would pick Charlotte Catholic. So I definitely did. I picked Crest.
Gotcha.
Just while I'm here, I picked Crest, Forest Hills, Cuthbertson, North Mecklenburg, Myers Park, and then Rock Hill Northwestern, who is playing Rock Hill South Point.
Okay. Yeah, I can't help you in the Sandlapper state. Uh, Going down a little bit here. That's going to be a great game to go to.
So, Jim, I picked Crest because it's at Crest. Um, that was the flipper for me, that it's at Crest. And so, anyway, keep going. See if there's another game.
Here's one. This is out. This is kind of in the Triad area. North Rowan 1-2, 1A team, good 1A team.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to High Point Andrews, a 2A team who is 3-0 right now. High Point Andrews has done a lot better than I thought they would this year. High Point Andrews is recent, I think, is 2012 or 13. They went to the state championship, won against Monroe.
Right.
Uh, they haven't been really talked about much since then. I
That
think
game
High Point
was
Andrews is going to win that game.
was that the game at Chapel Hill?
It was at Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
It was on a Friday night.
I was there. Remember that game well.
I was there too. Um, Going down here, Eastern Alamance 0-3. You don't hear Eastern Alamance at 0-3 that much.
Hmm.
They have to drive down or drive up to Reidsville, who's 3-0. That game could be ugly. Reidsville will win that one,
Right.
I think, going away. And here's the last, or actually, we've got two games that we'll talk about. Northwest Cabarrus at Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant is 3-0. Northwest Cabarrus just had a big win against A.L. Brown. They're 1-1. I think the first week of the season, Northwest Cabarrus lost to West Cabarrus 28-21. No
Hmm.
shame losing to West Cabarrus. I got Northwest Cabarrus winning this gun.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that one?
No, I picked Northwest Cabarrus.
And last one, Ardrey versus Charlotte Christian.
Is that who they're playing?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I got Christian winning this one.
I think I would pick Christian, though. Audrey Kell could maybe. I mean, Christian's a favorite, and if it were in the pick 'em, I'd pick. Pretty sure I'd pick Christian. I might think
Well,
about it real hard to see if I thought that I could pick the other way and beat the other guys. See, I have to kind of think about that now. Is where can I find wins?
right.
uh, but I think Christian's a solid favorite in that game.
I think Ardrey they had a decent lead against Marvin Ridge, and then Marvin
Yeah,
Ridge turned it on last week.
but
So that's
Marvin Ridge is a pretty good team though. So um,
let's see here. I'll
I,
look
th-
at
I don't think it changes anything about how I think about Christian and Ardrey.
right.
Would I like to see Ardrey win? You know, when it comes to games like that, I just like to see good ball games, and whoever wins wins. Um, I just think Christian's they got a good bit of talent and great coaching. Um, it's gonna be hard
I
to.
agree.
It'll be hard to beat them. It'll be hard to beat Christian, I think.
So I tell you what I thought I'll do. We thought we could go and look at my Elite Eight. So I'm gonna make this screen a little bit bigger, and I'll share my screen like it so everybody can see what I'm doing. Um, I always have some teams in the bottom that I'm kind of keeping my eye out just to see whatever goes on. And once I get this thing big, I'm gonna share my screen. Alrighty. All right, share screen. Let me make this thing so I can see it. Here we go. Window, entire screen. All right, I'm gonna start with 1A. Can you? Hopefully, yeah, you can see it. This is the 1A West. Mount Heritage. They went down to the Oaks and beat Robbinsville 28-13. I thought that was a very impressive win. That's a hard place to win. I don't care how good you are or maybe how Robbinsville might be struggling. That's a hostile environment to win. I think Mount Heritage and Mount Airy are your top two teams in the West. Any thoughts, differences on that? Those top
No,
two for you?
no, I like Mountain Heritage.
And then, like to me, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I think these are you can throw these names in a bag and pick whatever order.
Hmm.
I like Eastern Randolph. They just came up with another victory, 22-0. Battle of Yadkin County, Starmount all over Forbos, 45-0. Murphy, they defeated a 3A team, West Henderson, 36-33. I don't know if how good Murphy is. They did lose to Franklin beginning of the season, but Franklin's 3-0. So Murphy's not to be dismissed. Corvian, I know that Valentine Ridge, this is their first year playing varsity.
It is, and thus they only have freshmen and sophomores.
Gotcha. I mean, Corvian's a fairly new school itself, but I mean, I think that team is loaded. I think that team, Corvian might be one of these teams that can be up in the top 2 or 3. Who knows? But
Yeah, Valentine Ridge is just not. They don't have the size or anything. U
right.
program. It's hard to gauge other teams by how much they beat Valentine Ridge. So
Then I have Robbinsville at 7 and Mountain Island Charter at 8. Both of these teams lost games. Mountain Island Charter lost to South Lake Christian 21-0. The problem right now is there's not any that 7th and 8th teams were hard to kind of pick out. I thought Robbinsville was the best of the rest, so that's the reason I have them 7. Mountain Island Charter, I think they're probably the 8th, but the team that I'm kind of keeping my eyes on right now is on East Wilkes. I think that's a team that could really impress. North Rowan, they were in the Elite 8 the first several weeks of the season. I have them out now. Lost to Anson County 44-22. I want to see a little bit more from them. And Thomasville, they lost to High Point Andrews, and Thomasville might be the 9th or 8th best team. I don't know, but Thomasville is I think they're 1-2 right now. If High Point Andrews wins this week's game against, we just talked about it just a little bit ago. I got to find out who it is now. Andrews, North Rowan. That's going to be a. I can see Thomasville getting in there, but I think we're starting to see separations right now. I think we see the favorites, the contenders, and then a couple of dark horses.
I agree. Swain County is going to move up eventually. I think.
I think so too. They've played a pretty tough schedule so far. Going in the East, I mean, it's Tarboro. I mean, they win. I think this is the 3rd straight week they had a shutout. They shut out Rocky Mount. I think it was 48-0 against Hereford County. And now North Edgecombe 75-0. We'll see how good they are against Southwest Edgecombe, but I think they're by far the best team. I take Tarboro and I'd probably give everybody else 10 points, and I still take Tarboro on the east side. North Duplin, I think, might be the second best. It's kind of hard to see right now. There's not really any team that's really stood up and say, yes, I'm the best. Although I'll say Perquimans, that's a good team right there. Perquimans could be the second best team, but I think North Duplin's the second right now. To me, 2, 3, 4, 5 are kind of mixed up. And, there's no contenders on this one. There's the favorites. You got some dark horses, and the rest of the teams are sleepers at this point. Pender, they can score points. I mean, that's one thing a Tom Means team can do. They can score points. And Gates County is a pretty decent team. One team that I kind of have on the radar now that I haven't in the past, Hereford, 28-21 over, or Bertie beat Hereford 28-21. Bertie might be a team to look at.
Right.
Any thoughts on the 1A before I go to 2A?
No, I'm still big on Tarboro, as it is every year. No, what you have there looks good.
Now, 2A this has been a challenge. There was a lot of teams that lost this last week, and both in the East and the West. I still got Monroe number 1 and Raceville number 2, and I still have Shelby number 3. I could not fault Shelby at all losing to Crest.
No, and
So
Not that was the first thing I looked at. No, I don't see anything wrong with that. Monroe, I think, is I'm gonna be careful how I say it this year because Reedsville's good. But I do think Monroe right now is the inside favorite. But so I like those top three.
and then after that, this is where it gets kind of challenging. I got Walkertown at number 4. I mean, they beat West Stokes and they beat Salisbury. I just think Walkertown is the fourth best team at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Closely followed by Randleman. It's going to be Walkertown's beating Salisbury and they beat Forest Hills. Randleman beat West Stokes. And Randleman just beat Bunker Hill, which is another one of these teams that I think is a sleeper.
Right.
And then Maiden, I mean, they did lose to Watauga, but Watauga is a 4A team. A good 4A team should lose to or a good 2A team should lose to a good 4A team. It didn't hurt them at all in my picks or in my rankings. West Stokes 7, Salisbury 8th. Salisbury has been a little hit and miss, but I think they have the talent that as the season progresses, they should be really good. But some teams I'm kind of keeping my eye on: Forest Hills, Brevard. I know they've lost again to Irwin, but still, Brevard's a team that I'm not going to sleep on. West Lincoln, I can't sleep on West Lincoln. They beat Fred T. Ford 27-21.
Mm-hmm.
Burns, another team I can't sleep on. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. North Stanley I can sleep on, to be honest with you. Probably take them off this list. But these, I want to say these teams right here, I mean, any of them you could probably make an argument, even Community School of Davison, which we shall see. That Community School of Davison Forest Hills game is going to be a big one. Anything that you would change on this?
Out of the sleepers?
Or just the top 8?
No, I'm pretty good with all of it. Again, even Shelby, where they're at.
So in the East, to me right now, you got 2 favorites and then probably Nash Central nipping on their heels. I like Northeastern's offense. I like Southwest Edgecomb's defense. I got them 1 and 2 right now. I think it's a very close. These teams are not really separated by much in my book.
Right.
Same thing with Nash Central, just a little bit behind.
I might even flip those first 2, but
yeah, it's one of those that's just I like it. Usually, I favor a defense over offense. I do have questions about how good Southwest Edgecomb's offense is. Although they've only scored 15 points against Eastern Wayne, but Eastern Wayne's not a bad team. That's a pretty decent team, one of the better teams they've had over the last few years. They also had a Southwest Edgecombe. They did beat Nash Central earlier on in the season. I think it was like 34-28.
mm-hmm.
Nash Central is a loaded team. They just beat Goldsboro 51-0. After that, this is where it gets interesting. You'll see that the next 3 picks, all these teams reside in Duplin County. And I honestly thought about putting James Keenan all the way to up to number 4. I want to give them a little bit more time before I do that. I got Wallace Rose Hill 4, East Duplin 5, and James Keenan 6, followed by West Craven, who I'm not giving up on. I think 4 through 7 are kind of in their own category. And finally, it's trying to figure out who the 8th best team was. I've struggled on this. Southeast Alamance and Farmville Central were your top 2 teams, I thought. Edenton Holmes, we can actually drop them off of here. I just don't see them on the radar anymore. Same thing with Eden Grifton. Whiteville, definitely. Martin County is another team. But I like Southeast Alamance. I liked Farmville Central. Last week I had Farmville Central in the top 8. Now one but Southeast Alamance. Some people say, what are you talking about? They just beat Pamlico 61-6. I went back to look. I thought Southeast Alabama has a better body of work right now. And that's the reason I've been on the top 8.
Right.
Well, any thoughts on that before I go to 3A?
Uh, I think I made my main comment, which is Southwest Edgecombe. Uh, no, I think other teams have some proving to do.
Right.
West Craven being one if they can move up, but um, no, I think I'm good.
I will say with the 2A though, I can see, believe it or not, I can see 6 or 7 teams winning the 2A East. I just don't see a lot of difference. I think these two teams there's some separation between them and maybe Nash Central. Nash
Hmm.
Central is a little bit separated from these teams here and so forth. But 2A East could be interesting this year. So we'll go to 3A. 3A West, that 1, 2, and 3. I don't care how you rank these teams. Uh, I think right now Hickory is probably your best team, but Dudley, West Charlotte. I mean, I would not have an argument with anybody taking West Charlotte number 1 either.
Right. I'm thinking West Charlotte's got a good chance at coming out of the West, but I do believe Hickory's going to be the one that's everybody's going to have to go through.
They got to definitely have a bullseye on them.
Oh yeah,
And then,
without question. Yeah.
and then after that, I think there's a separation. I think Crest, AC Reynolds, these are two dangerous teams. Crest just beat Shelby 27-14. Great victory for Crest. AC Reynolds lost to East Forsyth. No shame in that whatsoever. East Forsyth is just loaded. I think those are your next two teams. I'd say that they're contenders. And then after
Hmm.
that, you're looking at more of your dark horses. East Lincoln, Statesville. Statesville, I don't know exactly what happened to Statesville. I thought that they would run all over South Iredale.
Yeah, especially after the way they've opened up. So I don't
That
know.
that score just didn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't. It does not.
And then I have J.M. Robinson. I think J.M. Robinson is loaded.
Yeah, I think that's a really good team out of Concord.
Right.
um, they have a good opportunity, I think, to move up and compete. Maybe in the regular season somewhere around 5. I think they've got a chance of doing that. Which, of course, things have to play out and they got to prove out. But I think they could find themselves in that mix in the West for sure in the playoffs.
And then you got a lot of, I mean, dark horses and sleepers here. Kings Mountain. I mean, I can't dismiss Kings Mountain. West Henderson. They came off with an ugly loss. I thought they should beat Murphy. Murphy won that game.
Uh
I
huh.
don't know the details about that one, but there's still a team that I'm not going to dismiss. Northwest Cabarrus. I don't know how I can't underestimate or understate how big a win that one's is. A.L. Brown has historically dominated this series, and
Right.
that was a huge win again for Northwest Cabarrus. And A.L. Brown, I thought that was a team on the rise, and
Well, you
I
thought
just
they might could have a better season this year, but I don't know, Jim. At the end of the day, it just it's not looking like A.O. Brown's going to be near an A.O. Brown, excuse me, of old.
right.
Uh, right quickly, so here, Gary says Statesville still using second string QB. Could be one reason. Tons of penalties in that game with South. Total of 5 TD. Wow, 5 TDs called back. 3 on Statesville and 2 on South Iredale. So,
That's enough to just drive coaches crazy.
oh yeah,
The North Lincoln, South Point, Irwin, those are great teams. Ashbrook, they they've beaten a couple good teams. I think beating Forest Hills earlier on the season was a good victory, and doing a shutout against West Meck. I mean, you can debate how good West Meck is this year, but
right.
uh, that's a good victory.
Yeah,
Um,
I would like to, I would hope, or what, wish, or however you want to put it, that West Met could be considered a good, solid opponent. So it's really hard to say because Ashbrook might be a decent football team, but I'm not thinking West Met's going to be a strong force in their conference. So
yes, they play in that's a brutal conference.
it's a brutal conference, and I just don't even see them finishing maybe in the top, or in, excuse me, in the not, certainly not in the top half, but maybe not even near the top of the bottom half. It's we'll see.
Yeah, brutal. So going to the east, Havelock 71st, Cape Fear. Right now, I think Havelock 71st they're your 1 and 2 teams. I think Cape Fear can make an argument for one. I just think they need to see a little bit more from them before I can move them up. But I think that 1, 2, and 3 are solid. After that, Northern Nash. I mean, they beat Rose 42-36. Rose is 0-3
Hmm.
this year. Uh,
Yeah, and that's a some of our listeners may not realize that, but that's just not something you typically think about seeing. Is and I'm talking about Rose being
right.
0-3.
I'm big on Jacksonville this year. Southern Nash, I like them. I've always liked Southern Nash. Southern Alamance, they beat Chapel Hill this last week. And here's one that I thought could go. I thought Williams could pull the upset, and they did. I picked Southern Durham, but I was not surprised that Williams beat Southern Durham 35-32.
Right.
I, I mean, to me, after you got here, you probably have like 71st. You could throw Cape Fear as one of the favorites. After
Yeah.
that,
So I'm just gonna
just
I'm just gonna say that in my picks, I would maybe pick. I like Havelock a lot yearly, but I like 71st right now. I
right,
think as an Eastern favorite. I think that's a solid top three though.
right. And then you got some teams right here I'm kind of looking at. And this is the reason why I took Holmes off of here. Holmes was a two-way team. Took him off my radar teams. Rocky Mount, they destroyed Holmes, 57-6. I know Rocky Mount lost to Tarboro 30-0. They lost to Vance County 23-22. But I still thought Rocky Mount was a team I want to keep my eyes on. And obviously they justified that with a big victory against Holmes.
Right.
Um, right now, these teams right here probably
Other column. Those were the
probably
team. Those were the
yeah,
winner losers.
yeah, probably North Brunswick and Southern Durham are probably the the most worthy teams to look at.
Hmm.
Scotland is got need to show them a little bit more advanced. Same thing. Person County, they keep on winning. I like Person. I don't think they have enough right now to put them in the top 8, but Person,
Right.
this is one of the best teams they've had in years. All right, anything before we go to 4A?
Um, no. Um, yeah.
All right. This has been hard. This has been really hard because it's like right now these it's I just think Weddington and Grimsley they maybe have a little bit of separation among the pack, but not that much. I think Huff is right there, and I think Independence is right there also. And be honest with you, East Forsyth is right there. I think these are your five best teams, and I think Mallard Creek is not that far behind either.
It's hard to say about Mallard Creek right now, but I'm I'm high on Huff. I'm high on Weddington. High on Grimsley. Um, I think I'm still high on Independence, but out of those, I think Huff might be by a lot of people maybe overlooked a little bit. And Weddington, I just personally believes on its own level right now.
Right.
It's going to take a lot of something to drop them off of that level, excuse me, to change the gap, close the gap.
So got these six teams right here, and then you have to find the next two teams. Right now, Mount Tabor. I know they lost to Grimsley at the beginning of the season, but just virtually every team's going to lose to Grimsley. They are a very solid team. I think they might be the third best team in the triad after Grimsley and East Forsyth. I got them at 7. I think they're a clear 7. 8,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, you could put Charlotte Catholic in there. I know they lost to Providence Day. I think they might be the 8th best team.
See, I probably would myself. I would probably put, let me see here, Catholic. Might consider Mooresville. I'm talking about over Watauga. Definitely Catholic. Um,
I mean, Myers Park, you can make an argument for.
Maybe Butler. Yeah, but I would put Butler above Myers Park right now. And thus would maybe say maybe even a Butler, Catholic and a Butler. Um, and then I don't know. I think then it's a mix of, when you get down to those teams below Butler there, just kind of a mixture of where they can finish up.
Right. So I'll head over to the. This is kind of a challenge here. I think your top 3 teams: Cardinal Gibbons, Cleveland, and Rolesville, but not. I mean, I have a 1, 2, and 3 right now. I think of these teams, Cardinal Gibbons is probably showing the most deserving to be number 1. Right. I think this is going to be a challenge this week against Rolesville. I got, to me, it's a coin flip right now. I think it's going to be hard for Rolesville to. They're going to have to play. If they play their best game, they can beat Cardinal Gibbons. If they make mistakes like they did at Grimsley, it could be ugly.
Right.
But I think Rolesville's they probably got better talent, but I just don't know if they got the fundamentals down quite yet. I'll have to think about that one. But those are your 3 best teams. And to be honest with you, I don't think Hoggard's that far behind them either. And, Hoggard, I think it was last year, they went to the state championship game, didn't they? They lost to Weddington.
Yeah, I agree with those. Rolesville and Cleveland. I just think like the Rolesville Cardinal Gibbons game is that's a 1-score game. I think this week I would be shocked if it's more than 1 score. And I think Rolesville's got so much talent they could contend and beat. Excuse me, both contend in the state, and Cleveland also. I think that's a tough. Really, I believe those top 3 are like really, really close to each other.
This is great for the East to have so many teams kind of lumped there together, and because the 4A East, it seems like you always have maybe 1 or 2 really good teams. In the past, has been like Wake Forest, has been Cardinal Gibbons, and Sometimes we'll have a team over in Fayetteville, or might be Richmond County, or and when Scotland was 4A, it might be Scotland. But you're seeing more depth in the 4A East, which I like. After that, it gets a little bit more challenging. I looked at it and I thought Leesville, Millbrook, and Clayton were the best of the rest. And you'll see I moved Pinecrest down to 8. The past, they were like, I think at one time they were number 4. I just don't know about Pinecrest. And to be honest with you, I almost put Jordan ahead of Pinecrest.
Oh, really? Well, I can kind of understand that. I may be just one of those too much yearly high on Pinecrest.
It's a challenge there. Jordan has the athletes. Pinecrest has probably some of the best depth in the state. So um, it's I'd love to see those two teams play. Any thoughts on the 4A East or 4A West?
No, scroll down just to see the contenders one more time. Okay.
There's some of these in here. And some of these contenders, I could probably take off. Like probably going to take
Yeah.
off Friendship and
No, I was
um,
just saying if something popped out at me that should really be up in the in the top 8 in my 8, but probably not. I like what's 8 there now. I like the 8 that's there now. I really only had one thing I would besides maybe shifting some teams around a little bit. My only real question on the 8 on the West is maybe Watauga. If Watauga can beat Reynolds and beat them handily, I'll be sold on them being a top 8 team.
right.
I'm just tainted so much with them winning, and then we get to the playoffs and they face one of the teams from down here in Mecklenburg County, and it's over. You know, it's always over. It's like you can predict it. You know, you can look at the
That's
brackets and say they may make it to here, but they will not make it past this point here because it's a Mecklenburg team.
and a lot of times it's like the 4th or 5th best team in Mecklenburg County, and
Right.
they beat Watauga handily.
Exactly.
Um,
So,
that 4A West though is it's still deep and wide.
oh
I
yeah,
think Yale Brown's probably
I
tallest right now.
in your contenders, I still question right now. I didn't question going into the season. I didn't question maybe even after week 1, but now I'm kind of questioning Chambers. Yeah, exactly. Um, I they had a huge coaching staff changeover,
Right.
and Chambers always, whether it was Vance or Chambers, they always have athletes, talent, size, speed, but they always have the ingredients of players to have a good team, and it just takes coaching bringing them together. And what happened here was most of the coaching staff that was there last year went over and joined Coach Farabee at Butler because he had coached them he had coached at Chambers, and so a lot of those guys had coached under him, and now he's got them over at Butler, and now Chambers had to go build a new coaching staff, and I don't know, Jim. Sometimes that doesn't go so well for teams, and
Right.
even if you get a good coach, sometimes the culture of the school, not the culture of the football program, but the culture of the school and the kids that you're working with don't fit your style of coaching. And
Right.
you can't do anything with them. You can't build a program, as hard as you try, you can only get so good because you'll never win the kids over. I don't know that that's the case, but it's something that you have to consider. So that's my big that's one of my big question marks. So right now I don't know that if Chambers and Audrey Kell played and Reagan and Marvin Ridge, maybe even A.L. Brown, if Chambers could beat them, TCR, Providence, Lake Norman. I can tell you if Chambers and Lake Norman played tomorrow, I'd pick Lake Norman. I know that.
Yeah, I
Might
agree
be
with you.
I might be wrong, but I would pick that. So when I look at this list of teams, which is really strange to be saying about Chambers, a team that you usually talk about being in the top 3 of the toughest conference in the state, not even being able to maybe be in the top 20, 25, maybe even of 4A in in the West. Excuse me, not
Right.
in North Carolina, but just in the West. There's probably there's a number of teams on the East side that if they played, I would pick the East side. Like Wake Forest. I'd pick Wake Forest over Chambers today.
Here's a team that I was going to add on here, West Forsyth
West Forsyth. Yeah, they are always a team you have to reckon with.
and Glenn.
Yeah, definitely Glenn.
Yeah,
Um, especially if you got Chambers up there. um,
exactly. Some teams, I mean, Chambers, you can almost strike through. Right now, Reagan, it's going to be. I'll keep them up for another week just to keep high on them. But
right.
they've got some injury problems.
They got injury problems, and
A.R. Brown, you can almost, to me, they're going to come off this list.
yeah, it's sad to say, but A.L. Brown's just not the A.L. Brown we used to know. And again, when you start thinking about teams like TCR and um, these other teams maybe being better than a Brown without a second thought, um, yeah, that's just where we are today.
Yeah, it's a, it's good in a lot of ways though to see teams that may have been down for many years all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden rise up. For the longest time when West Pro-Am first started, first 40 years in the of existence, I think they had 7 winning seasons. And then
Mm-hmm.
they get the right coach, they get the right coaching staff, they get the right administration, get the right
Yep.
athletes, and they win 3 state
They win
championships in a
state
row.
championships. Exactly. It was like boom, nothing, boom. And then after he left, kind of meandered down.
It's
Um,
also like Southview. They opened up in 1972. First 16 seasons,
yep.
they won a total of 28 games, and then 4 years later, they won a
They're in,
state
they're
championship
in the
back in
state
1991.
championship. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then um, they appeared in state championships after that.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're kind of back down to
They're
middle.
average.
Yeah, Midland is what I was going to say. They're
They're
kind of like a
middling,
Midland team. Yeah,
fair to
just kind
middle,
of fair to Midland. Just nothing to be afraid of.
right?
Um, not no nobody that's going to contend for a state championship.
Right.
Power cycles, but teams like an A.L. Brown, I don't know. I think it's sometimes it's good for football to have a Richmond and a A.L. Brown, even a Concord, uh, being where they were 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, you remember
Uh,
Southwest Onslow? They were a dominant 1A, 2A team for
yep, yep,
many years in the last decade. They lost Phil Paget. I think Phil passed away several
yep.
years ago. Uh, they're they're kind of coming back a little bit, but you just don't talk about them that much anymore.
No, it's
Albemarle High School,
that's
last
another
decades
one.
has been very tough for them.
Yep, that's another one that was way up there and then has just kind of fallen off.
And
And
then
you'd
heck,
like to
my
no, go
like
ahead.
my high school, North Stanley, uh, we from like 90, I think from 1985 when I started as a freshman up through 2012, we had winning seasons in 93, 97, 98. So for
Mm-hmm.
basically a 38-year period, we had three winning seasons. Since 2013, we've had winning seasons every year since then.
Which is
And
good,
yeah, it
right?
is good. So
Okay.
anyway, well, Dale, I'll tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm just exhausted today.
No, after my day today, I'm ready to disconnect.
All right, my brother. Well, listen, I'm the same way. I'm going to
All right.
go and rest this voice, and I got to go to the hospital tomorrow to be there for my
Yep.
mother's surgery. So
Well, hope that goes well.
I appreciate it, my friend.
All right. Have a good evening.
Take care, Dale. See you now.
All right.
For everybody, this is Jim and Dale. Catch you later.